need someone to serve drinks at my engagement dinner, my son Ryan said over the phone. Victoria's mom suggested you'd be perfect for it. You know, since you've been serving people your whole life anyway. I had worked 3 jobs for 22 years to put him through college. I'm Sarah Mitchell, and I've spent the last 2 decades of my life building a man who just asked me to serve cocktails to his future in-laws instead of sitting at their table. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. Phoenix, Arizona, 2001. I was 25 years old, 7 months pregnant, and watching my husband David pack his clothes into garbage bags while our baby kicked against my ribs. I'm not ready for this responsibility, he said, not looking at me. I need to find myself. He found himself, all right, living with his 19-year-old coworker in Tucson, posting photos of their weekend trips to Sedona while I went into labor alone. Ryan James Mitchell came into this world on March 10th, 2001 at 2:15 a.m. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, with dark hair and his father's stubborn chin. The nurse asked where Dad was. I told her he was parking the car. She never asked again. Those first years were a survival marathon disguised as motherhood. I worked double shifts at Denny's on weekends and cleaned offices at night while Ryan slept in a pack and play in the break room. My manager, Mrs. Thompson, pretended not to notice when I brought him to work, slipping me extra tips from the register when she thought I wasn't looking. Single mothers stick together, she'd whisper. I missed Ryan's first steps because I was mopping floors at Palo Verde Insurance Company. I heard about them secondhand from Mrs. Patterson, the elderly neighbor who watched him for $8 an hour. Money I could barely afford but couldn't live without. He walked right to the refrigerator, she told me, laughing. Smart boy knows where the food lives. When Ryan turned 4, I made a decision that would define both our lives. I enrolled in community college to become a certified nursing assistant. Classes were from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 3 days a week. I'd drop Ryan at daycare, sprint to class, then pick him up and go straight to my evening shift at the restaurant. The coursework was brutal. Medical terminology, patient care procedures, certification exams. I studied at red lights during Ryan's bath time, in the break room between orders. The day I graduated nursing school, Ryan was 6 years old and missing his 2 front teeth. He sat in the front row of the auditorium wearing a button-down shirt I'd bought at Goodwill and pressed 3 times to get the creases right. When they called my name, he stood up and clapped so hard I could hear him over the applause. That's my mom, he shouted. She's smart, I cried in my cap and gown, thinking we'd finally made it. The CNA certification opened doors to better jobs. I started working at Desert Regional Medical Center. Real health insurance, steady schedule, enough money to move us from the 1-bedroom apartment to a small duplex with a backyard. Ryan was 7 when we moved in, and I'll never forget how he ran through each room, declaring which one would be his, where we'd put the Christmas tree, how he'd have friends over to play video games. We did it, buddy, I told him that first night as we ate pizza on the living room floor. We have our own place. He looked around our empty duplex. No furniture yet, just moving boxes and a blow-up mattress. And said, It's perfect, Mom. We don't need anything else. I wish I could say the hard part was over, but raising a teenager as a single mother brought new challenges. Ryan was brilliant, straight A's, honor roll every semester, accepted into the accelerated math program. But he started asking questions about his father, about why we lived differently than his classmates, about why I wore scrubs to his school events while other mothers wore business suits. Why doesn't Dad ever call? He asked on his 14th birthday. I was decorating a store-bought cake with tube frosting, trying to make it look homemade. He's not ready to be a father, sweetie, but I'm ready to be your mother and your father. Is that enough? Ryan hugged me tight and said yes, but I saw something change in his eyes that day, a sadness that hadn't been there before. High school brought scholarship opportunities and college dreams. Ryan wanted to study business at Arizona State University, and I wanted him to reach for stars I'd never been able to touch. We filled out financial aid forms together at the kitchen table, my W-2s spread out between his homework. I'm going to make something of myself, Mom, he promised. I'm going to make you proud. He did make something of himself. Unfortunately, part of that something included being ashamed of where he came from. Ryan's sophomore year at ASU, he started correcting my grammar. It's I saw, Mom, not I seen. His junior year, he stopped bringing friends home. Our place is just too small, he explained. We'll hang out at their places instead. Senior year, he asked me not to wear my work scrubs to his graduation. Just dress nice, okay? Like a regular mom. After graduation, Ryan landed an internship at a marketing firm in Scottsdale. He moved to an apartment near his work, started wearing business suits, talking about networking and building his brand. When I asked how he was managing financially on an internship salary, he said he'd gotten a small promotion. When I offered to help with anything, he said he was handling it like an adult now. That's when he met Victoria. Victoria Ashworth came from the kind of family that owned things, vacation homes, investment portfolios, country club memberships passed down through generations. Her father was a partner at a prestigious law firm. Her mother sat on charity boards and organized fundraising galas. They lived in Paradise Valley, in a house featured in Phoenix Home and Garden magazine. Ryan brought Victoria to dinner exactly once. She was polite, perfectly polite, complimenting my homemade lasagna and asking interested questions about my work at the hospital. But I caught her subtle glances around our small duplex, the way her eyes lingered on our mismatched furniture and the family photos in plastic frames from Target. After they left, Ryan called me the next morning. Mom, Victoria really liked you. She said you were sweet, but maybe next time we could meet at a restaurant, somewhere more neutral. I agreed because I loved my son more than my pride. But something cold settled in my chest that day. The engagement happened 16 months later. Ryan called me at work, talking fast and excited. Mom, I proposed. Victoria said yes. We're getting married next spring at her family's country club. Can you believe it? Your son is marrying a beautiful, educated woman from a great family. I was happy for him. Of course I was happy for him. This was my baby boy, the child I'd raised to reach higher than our circumstances. But there was something in the way he said, great family, that made my stomach turn. As if the family that had raised him wasn't great enough. The phone call that broke my heart came on a Tuesday evening in February. Mom, we need to talk about the engagement dinner. Victoria's family is hosting it at their house. Just close family, very intimate, about 25 people. I was making dinner, phone tucked between my ear and shoulder, stirring rice with one hand and reaching for seasoning with the other. That sounds lovely, sweetheart. What time should I be there? Well, that's the thing. We need someone to serve drinks and help with the food service. Victoria's mom suggested you'd be perfect for it. You know, since you've been serving people your whole life anyway. I stopped stirring. The wooden spoon went still in my hand. I'm sorry, what? The engagement dinner is just for immediate family, but they need someone reliable to handle the service. You're so good at that kind of thing, and you've been doing it forever. His voice was bright, cheerful, as if he was offering me a wonderful job opportunity instead of asking me to serve drinks at my own son's engagement party. Ryan, I said slowly, I am your immediate family. I'm your mother. I raised you by myself for 22 years. I know, Mom, and I appreciate everything you've done, but this is Victoria's family's event, and they have a certain way of doing things. Her parents went to Stanford together. Her uncle is a federal judge. These are important people, and I need to make a good impression. And having your mother sitting at the table would hurt that impression? The silence stretched between us. I could hear him breathing, searching for words that wouldn't sound as cruel as the truth. It's not about you, Mom. It's about me fitting into their world. They're going to be my family now. I hung up the phone without saying goodbye and turned off the stove. The rice was burning, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I walked to my bedroom closet and pulled out a shoebox from the top shelf. Inside were 22 years of memories. Ryan's baby hospital bracelet, his first report card, ticket stubs from every movie we'd seen together, the program from his high school graduation where I'd clapped until my hands hurt. At the very bottom was a photo from his 9th birthday party. Just the two of us at Chuck E. Cheese, sharing a small pizza and a sheet cake with his name spelled wrong in green frosting. Ryan was missing his front teeth and grinning at the camera. I was wearing my Denny's uniform because I'd come straight from my shift, but I was smiling too. We looked tired and happy and completely, absolutely together. My son hadn't just grown up, he'd grown away. The boy who'd shouted, "That's my mom," at my graduation, had become a man who wanted me serving drinks to his future in-laws while he sat at their table. I didn't go to the engagement dinner. I also didn't call to explain why. Let Victoria's family wonder where their server was. Let Ryan explain to his future in-laws that his mother, the woman who'd raised him alone, wasn't reliable enough to pour their wine. 3 weeks later, the most unexpected phone call of my life changed everything. "Is this Sarah Mitchell?" The voice was deep, unfamiliar, nervous. "This is David Mitchell, Ryan's father. I think we need to talk." David had found Ryan through social media, impressed by his success, his engagement to quality people, his bright future. He wanted back into his son's life now that there was something worth claiming credit for. "I made mistakes when I was young," he told me over coffee at a Starbucks in Tempe. "But I'm ready to be a father now. Ryan's turned out so well, and I'd like to be part of his wedding, part of his future." "You want to be part of his future?" I asked. "Where were you for his past?" "I know I haven't been there, but he's a successful businessman now, marrying into a good family. This is my chance to make things right." David had gained weight over the years, his hairline had receded, but his entitlement was exactly the same as I remembered. He still believed the world owed him something. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in that crowded Starbucks. "You want to make things right? Your son just asked me to serve drinks at his engagement party instead of sitting at the table. The son I raised alone for 22 years thinks I'm good enough to be the help, but not good enough to be his family. You two deserve each other." I stood up to leave, but David grabbed my arm. "Sarah, wait. I can help you understand him better. We're both his parents." "No," I said, shaking him off. "I'm his parent. You're just a sperm donor who wants credit for work you never did." But David was persistent. He reached out to Ryan, and because Ryan was building his new identity as someone from quality people, he embraced the father who'd abandoned him. There were golf outings, business dinners, father-son bonding over investments, and career strategies. David introduced Ryan to his new wife, his stepchildren, his respectable suburban life. The wedding invitation arrived in my mailbox on a Tuesday. Formal cardstock, elegant script, Victoria and Ryan's names embossed in gold. At the bottom, in smaller print, "Reception to follow at Paradise Valley Country Club." I wasn't listed in the wedding party, of course, but I wasn't asked to serve either. I was just a regular guest, like a distant cousin or family friend. I bought a navy blue dress from Macy's and had my hair done at a salon in Ahwatukee. I wanted to look respectable for whatever role my son had decided I deserved in his new life. But as I sat in my car outside the country club, watching guests in expensive suits and designer dresses walk through the entrance, I realized something important. I didn't want to be there. Not as a guest sitting in the back row while David walked Ryan down the aisle. Not as an afterthought invited out of obligation. Not as someone whose 22 years of sacrifice earned her a chicken dinner and a table near the bathroom. I drove home, hung up my navy dress, and made dinner for one. While my son danced with his new wife and posed for photos with the father who'd contributed nothing but DNA, I sat in my small duplex and felt peace for the first time in months. The next morning, I donated every baby photo, school project, and childhood memory to Goodwill. I kept one picture, the Chuck E. Cheese birthday where we were poor and happy, and I was the most important person in his world. That boy loved me for who I was. The man he'd become loved me for what I could do for him. 6 months later, David left again. This time for a 23-year-old yoga instructor in California. Ryan called me crying, asking how I'd managed for all those years as a single parent. "It must have been so hard," he sobbed. "I don't know how you did it." I listened to his pain, his confusion, his betrayal. When he finished, I said calmly, "I did it because I loved you more than I loved myself. Your father did it because he loved himself more than he loved you. Can you forgive me, Mom? Can we try again?" he asked. I thought about it for a long moment. About forgiveness and second chances, and the boy in the Chuck E. Cheese photo. "Ryan," I said finally, "I forgave you the day you broke my heart. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean going backward." "What does that mean?" "It means I served my time. 22 years of serving, sacrificing, and staying invisible so you could shine. I'm done being anyone's help. I'm ready to be someone's priority." I hung up the phone and looked around my small duplex. For the first time in 22 years, I was completely alone. And for the first time in 22 years, that felt like freedom. Today, I work part-time at the hospital and volunteer at a women's shelter, helping single mothers navigate the system I once struggled through alone. I have friends now, hobbies, a life that doesn't revolve around being needed by someone who was ashamed of me. Ryan sends cards on holidays and birthdays. Victoria had a baby last year, a daughter they named Emma. They send photos sometimes, formal family portraits taken at expensive studios. They look perfect and polished and exactly like the kind of family Ryan always wanted to be part of. I don't regret raising my son alone. I don't regret the sacrifices or the struggles, or the love I poured into creating a man who could succeed in any world he chose. But I do regret teaching him that my worth was measured by my service instead of my strength. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them live with the consequences of their choices. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is choosing to be seen instead of helpful. The boy who shouted, "That's my mom," is gone. But the woman who raised him is finally ready to shout, "That's me!" And that, after 22 years of serving others, feels like the most important recognition of all.